Hey y'all, this is John Haynes, pastor of the Glendale Baptist Church in Glenn, Mississippi. As you might know, many of our programs are undated, but I just wanted to take time to say Happy Thanksgiving. May the Lord bless you in all that you do.
It's time for the Glendale Devotional Podcast, a 5-minute weekday devotional ministry from Glendale Baptist Church in Glenn, Mississippi. The speaker is John Haynes. Now, here is Brother John.
We are studying the life and times of Moses. We are in Exodus chapter 2 today. Now, Moses' life can be broken down into 3 40-year periods. From the time he was born under a sentence of death by the Pharaoh of Egypt, rescued by Pharaoh's daughter, and lived within the palace of the king, was 40 years. The next 40-year section of his life began when he went out to see his Hebrew people. Perhaps in an effort to make things right or simply to find favor among his countrymen, he killed an Egyptian guard, tried to break up a fight between 2 Hebrew men, and fled after Pharaoh found out what he did. He ran and ran and ran until he came to the area of Midian, known today as modern Saudi Arabia. He sat by a well and pondered what had taken place, how his life had changed in an instant. Surely he considered himself to be a failure as he reacted in such a damaging way as to take a life, but thank God that he can restore and use those who have failed. Now, this is where we left off with the account of Moses last week. Today, listen to Exodus chapter 2, verses 16 through 21.
Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water, and they filled the troughs to water their father's flock. Then the shepherds came and drove them away. But Moses stood up and helped them, and watered their flock. When they came to Reuel their father, he said, "How is it that you have come so soon today?" And they said, "An Egyptian delivered us from the hand of the shepherds. And he also drew enough water for us and watered the flock." So he said to his daughters, "And where is he? Why is it that you have left the man? Call him that he may eat bread." Then Moses was content to live with the man. And he gave Zipporah his daughter to Moses, and she bore him a son. He called his name Gershom, for he said, "I have been a stranger in a foreign land."
The well in local communities was very important. It was the place that everyone would visit. The Midianites were descendants of Abraham through his wife Keturah. The priest of that area had 7 daughters. This priest is known by 3 names throughout the Bible: Jethro, Reuel, and Hobab. But most commonly, he's known as Jethro. As the daughters came to get water to water their father's flock, they were met with resistance from some shepherds. These shepherds chased the young maids away, so Moses rose to help them. We're simply told that he stood up, helped them, and watered their flock. You see, Moses didn't know it yet, but God would raise him up to be one of the most effective leaders the world has ever known. One of the key traits of a leader is having compassion and empathy on the most vulnerable. It was natural for Moses to help these defenseless ladies. Because of Moses' act of service, the daughters got through with their chores much quicker. As they returned home, they told their questioning father that an Egyptian had helped them. Moses was not an Egyptian, but they thought he was. Perhaps his apparel, his mannerisms, or even his accent caused them to think this. I think this points to a larger struggle that Moses had much of his life. He didn't know who he was, but God knew. Jethro told his daughters to go get this man. Let's invite him to supper, so a proper thank you could be given. They found Moses, invited him to dinner on behalf of their father, and through a simple act of hospitality, Jethro and his family showed kindness to this stranger. The meal became a means in which Moses, this migrated alien, would wind up having a place to live and a job herding the flocks of Jethro. But God was preparing Moses to lead the Israelites out of Egyptian slavery. Again, Moses just didn't know it. You see, if you're going to lead 2 million people across the desert, it's very helpful to know something about living in the desert. God always prepares us for what's coming. Moses married Zipporah, one of the daughters of Jethro, and they had a son named Gershom. So, as we close, I'm reminded of a poem that my mother had placed in our home when I was a teenager. I think she might have actually gotten it at a yard sale, but I still remember the saying of this artwork. It said, "Every person we meet, every experience we go through is the perfect preparation for the future that only God can see." For such a time as this, God has prepared you, equipped you, and shown mercy for you to be His hands and feet. Let's do that with great joy, realizing that there is no mistake that we could ever do that God cannot forgive, heal, and even use for His own glory. Let's pick up here tomorrow. Until then, have a good and godly day.